Hi guys, I'm Holly and welcome to Pilates PT. This workout will be a 30-minute Trimester 1 Pilates workout that will focus on the whole body. I'm currently 12 weeks pregnant, so this workout will be suitable for any stage of Trimester 1. Throughout my pregnancy, I will be uploading new trimester-specific workouts each week. If you like workouts like these and want to get notified, then please subscribe and hit the notification bell. All you'll need for this workout is a mat and some water to keep hydrated. If you're ready, then let's start. So first of all, I want you to come to the middle of your mat, and at first just pick up the feet a few times, almost like you're walking down the street, and then imagine you're about to join a queue. So you're about to join the queue at the bus stop, at the coffee shop, and I just want you to then relax and get into a comfortable, relaxed default posture. And what you're trying to find here is your posture type. We don't all have to have perfect posture. There is no perfect posture. So just find your natural resting position and then close your eyes and just stay here for a moment. And I want you to try and build up a picture of what you think your posture would look like. So what position do you think your feet might be in? Do they point forwards? Do they turn out? Do they turn in? Your knees, are they locked or are they bent or are they just soft? Where do you think the pelvis is? Do you push it forwards? Does it sit back? Or do you feel like it's aligned with the arches of the feet? What do you think the shape of your spine is from the side and from the back? And where do you think the shoulders sit? Do they slope forwards? Maybe you're at a laptop all day. Maybe you pin them back and kind of over-exaggerate. And then right now your eyes are closed, but if they were open, where do you think you'd be looking? Would you be looking at the floor or would you be looking straight ahead? And it's really helpful to kind of build up a picture of what your positioning is like. And then when you're ready, open your eyes and sort of have a little look and just think, was I right? I think sometimes getting rid of your eyes, closing your eyes can really help you focus in on where your body is in space. So this is a totally acceptable posture, but I want us to start in a slightly more neutral posture. So for this, I want you to bring your feet so that they are hip width apart and parallel. I want your knees to not be locked, but not be bent. They're just a little bit soft. Think of your pelvis almost like a big bowl of popcorn. Can we just try and get it in a position where the popcorn wouldn't spill out the sides? Think about the rib cage stacking directly above that bowl of popcorn. And then your arms are by your side, and I want your eyes at eye level. That can feel weird because we're so used to looking down at phones, children, laptops. So look straight ahead. And then once you've found that position, it might feel a bit awkward. And the more awkward it feels, the more unlikely we are that we have a neutral posture. Again, we don't have to have one. But this can really help us just find a great start position. Now, I'd like you to maintain this position. And on your next exhale, you're just going to reach your arms up overhead to a point where you think, if I go any further, I'll lose neutral. I'll probably lean back. So find that bite point. At this position, the rib cage has not tilted backwards. We've still got the ribs over the pelvis. Now inhale, lower the arms down. Exhale, do it again. Lift your arms up towards the ceiling. Inhale, lower them back down. And we're just going to keep going with this double arm raise. It's a really simple move, but eventually the arms do get quite tired. And what we're doing here is we're getting a little bit of low-level core engagement to stop us from tilting backwards as we lift the arms. So exhaling as we lift, inhaling as we lower. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't move your spine when we normally do this outside of class, but for the benefit of this exercise, we're staying neutral. And we're just going to do one more of these, then we're going to lower the arms back down, we're going to reset, and then we're going to calf raise. We're going to lift the heels up, and I'd like you to hold it for a second. Have we still kept a neutral position, or have we started to lean backwards? This is kind of a representation of pregnancy. Our pelvis is pulled forwards by our growing bump, and we tend to lean back to stop ourselves falling forward. Well, it's the same when we come up onto our toes. So try not to lean backwards. Just try and maintain your balance here. Now inhale, lower the heels down. Exhale, lift them up. Inhale to lower and exhale to lift. And we're starting to warm up those calves. I just want you to think about what you might look like from the front as well. So just watch the ankles are staying neutral. They're not falling out, they're not collapsing in. We're staying relatively neutral. And we're going to do two more like this. Good, one more. Then I'd like you to add those arms in. So as I exhale, I lift my heels and my arms. Inhale, I bring them both down. And again, are we able to stay in that relatively neutral position, or are we leaning backwards again? When we lean backwards, we lengthen our abdominals. So it means that they're actually not contracting. They're not holding us in place. And that is the reason why I'd like us to keep the rib cage still. And we're going to do 3 more like this. And last 2. On the next one, come up and stay, and then keep your arms here and just move your ankles. So lower the heels and lift the heels. Again, just thinking about those abdominals holding us in position. And let's do 3 more. And 2, calves should be getting warm. 1 more. Now last option, we come up onto tiptoes and then we move the arms. Inhale to lower and exhale to lift. Now this should be the most challenging, definitely the most wobbly. How are those ankles looking? We're going to do 4 more. And 3, keep the ribs over the pelvis. Last 2. On the last one, let's finish with the arms in the air. The heels are still lifted. We're going to lower the heels. We're going to bring our hands to prayer, and we're going to stay here. So hopefully you can feel your calves have warmed up. Now from here, we're going into hip hinges. So we keep our knees soft. We start to push our bum backwards. We hinge at the hips and we keep going until we hit the point where we can go no further. So for this, we're trying to keep our backs nice and neutral. We're not rounding and we're not overextending. The knees are soft, they're not bent because it's not a squat. And then as we exhale, we push the ground away to come back to standing, just to neutral, and then we go again. Inhale, we hinge at the hips, we push those bums back. Exhale, we bring ourselves back to our start position. So as we're doing this, we're keeping those knees soft, okay, but they are not bending and straightening. So it's just a hip hinge. That is the only joint that's changing. And what we should feel as we hinge at the hip is the hamstrings and glutes stretching, lengthening, get them to that full stretch, and then they're contracting to pull us back up. So we're really trying to get those muscles to work through their full range of movement. Now we're going to do 3 more of these, supporting our back with a little bit of core engagement. So you could maybe think about hugging your tummy in slightly or lifting that pelvic floor. Now the next one, I'd like us to come out halfway and hold. So we're out in this kind of parent position. We spend a lot of time in this position when we're parents, changing nappies, running baths, wiping noses. So we want to be really strong here, okay? So we've still got some support from our abdominals. Now from here, I want you to bend your knees a little bit. So it's almost like you're sat on a stool. You're not in a squat. We're not ass to grass. We're quite high up. Now shift your weight from your left foot to your right foot, from your left foot to your right foot. And it's quite a subtle movement. I almost want you to imagine you have a glass of water on your head that you don't want to spill. Now shift your weight over to your right foot and then lift up your left heel. We're going to tap that left foot back, then we're going to tap it back in. Tap the foot back and tap it back in. And so as we're doing this, we're putting very little weight into that left foot. It's just kind of kissing the ground. All of my weight is over this right leg, okay? And let me show you from another angle. Try not to hip drop. See if you can keep those hips nice and level as this left leg moves. It should be the right glute that starts to get tired, okay? We might feel some stuff in the quads. We might feel some kind of other muscle groups firing up. That's completely normal. Muscles don't work on their own, but this right bum cheek should be getting really tired. We're going to do 2 more of these. And on the last one, tap that left foot back and hold. Now, can we sit a touch lower into that right leg? If you feel safe, lift your left foot off the floor and hold it there. Holding for 3 and 2. Lower the foot down, bring it back in, stand up and walk it off. And you should kind of want to shake that right leg out. You should have felt it side and back of that right hip. Now we've got the other leg to do, unfortunately. So come back to standing in the middle of your mat. Re-find neutral. Just take a moment to reset. Make sure the knees are soft. Hip hinge about 45 degrees. So back to that half hip hinge. Do a little baby squat. So we're sat on a stool. And then shift the weight from left foot to right foot. From left foot to right foot. And can you feel how it feels a bit different now? That right side feels quite tired. Maybe it's firing, much easier. Now shift your weight over to your left foot, lift up your right heel, tap the right foot back and tap it in. So we swap legs this time. My weight is over this left foot. I'm not allowing my hips to drop to the side. I'm keeping them nice and neutral. And I want you to think about your left foot here. I don't want the toes lifted or the heel lifted. The foot should really be in contact with the floor. And if you find your lower back is getting really grippy or taking over, just think about activating your core a little bit more. So maybe you could do a little pelvic floor lift, that can help. Or you can kind of imagine almost drawing your tummy in slightly, almost like you're tightening up a corset. Now let's do 3 more of these. Last 2. On the last one, tap that foot back and hold. Now can we sit down a bit lower into the left leg? Do we feel safe enough to lift that right foot and hover? Hold it here. Final 3 and 2. We tap the foot down, we bring it in, we stand up and we shake that leg out. Again, we should have felt it in the back of that left leg. So glute, a little bit of hamstring. Some of us will feel it in that quad. Now, let's work our way to the end of our mats for a moment and just reset. So take a moment to find a relatively neutral standing position. Take a big deep breath in, and as you exhale, start to roll down a vertebra at a time, chin to chest, peeling all the way down as low as is comfy, and just hang here for a moment. It's going to give those hamstrings and glutes a quick chance to have a breather after those last exercises, and relax the back of your neck, let your shoulders droop forwards. Now from here, we're going to bend our knees enough that we can bring our hands down to the floor, and we're going to come down to hands and knees. So 4-point kneeling. And just take a moment here to get comfy, because for some of us, it's not going to be all that comfy with our weight going right through those wrists. So we might need to sit the weight back a little bit. Another option is coming up onto fists, but ideally we want to be here. Now what I'd like to do is find a nice neutral spine. So rib cage and pelvis are stacked on top of each other again. And then just let your abdominals soften, let your tummy relax. So we haven't changed the shape of our spine, but we've just let our tummies soften off. Then I want you to find your breath, breathing in through your nose, breathing out through your mouth. Nice big deep breath, in through the nose, nice noisy exhale, out through the mouth. Now, this is a really forced exhale. I really want you to think about on the exhale, almost like you're blowing dust off your yoga mat. And then keep that breath going, in through the nose, out through the mouth. But then have a look down at your tummy, and what some of us are going to notice is that there's some movement of the tummy when we breathe. So when we inhale, we might notice our tummies get bigger. And as we exhale, we might notice our tummies draw in. Even if you haven't got a bump, you would see this happen. Now don't panic if you don't see any movement, but we're going to exaggerate this now. On your next exhale, I'd like you to do a pelvic floor lift. So you're imagining that you are holding in a poo and a wee, and then on the inhale, you let that pelvic floor lift go. So again, as you exhale, you do a pelvic floor lift or a Kegel, whatever you want to call it. And on the inhale, you let the pelvic floor go. Now have a look down at your tummies. And as you do your pelvic floor lift, do you notice anything going on in your tummy now? So as you lift the pelvic floor, what's going on, if anything? Now, when we lift our pelvic floor, we get a co-contraction with our transverse muscle, which is our corset muscle. It wraps around the trunk like an actual corset. So some of us, when we lift our pelvic floor, will notice that the tummy also tightens. Now we're going to exaggerate this one more level. On the next exhale, I'd like you to lift your pelvic floor and almost imagine somebody is tightening up a corset for you. And on the inhale, let it all go. So again, as we exhale, we lift the pelvic floor. Almost imagine you're trying to do the button up on a pair of tight jeans. Then inhale, let this go, and keep that going. So it doesn't matter what way round you think about this, okay, but it's essentially a tightening of this transverse muscle, a shortening of that corset. So what we should now be noticing is that there is a definite rise and fall of that tummy as we activate our core. And we call this engaging our core, or we can call it abdominal bracing, but as long as you can still breathe. Sometimes bracing causes people to aggressively brace and they just can't breathe. That's not what we're after. It's a feeling of kind of giving ourselves a little bit more support through the core. Now we're going to do 2 more of these. See what movement happens, and think about what these muscles do for us during pregnancy. They help carry the weight of our bump. And on the last one, I want you to activate that core, and then I want you to hold it there for a moment. Now, the key is that we should be able to keep our core engaged for a little while and still breathe. So again, if we're bracing too aggressively, we would really struggle to breathe. So here, I want it to be that we can still keep that level of activation through our core, but we can still breathe or talk. I'm going to give it another 5 seconds. Keep breathing. 3, 2, 1, let it go. Then push yourself up to standing kneel. So again, if we think about the action that those muscles have, they help draw us in and up. So they almost act like a pregnancy girdle for our uterus, which is so helpful for supporting our pelvis as it gets bigger. Now in this standing kneel position, find that nice neutral position, ribs over pelvis. Arms are by your side and they're straight. And we're going to start to pulse these arms back, back, back. Almost like we're trying to create a breeze. The arms need to stay nice and straight, so no floppy wrists, and we push, push, push. So I like to imagine I'm pushing my arms through treacle or melted chocolate. We're all going to want that now. So there's that feeling of imaginary resistance. Now, if you had a glass of water on your head, it shouldn't spill. So just be careful that you're not kind of thrusting your hips or wriggling around. Kind of stay still as these arms pulse. And we're working into the back of the shoulder. And how much of the day do we naturally have our arms behind us? Very little. They're always out here, right? So really important, we're balancing ourselves out. 4, 3, 2, push back and hold. Now I'll show you from behind, bend at the elbows, crisscross these arms. One in front, one behind, and switch, switch, switch. Can you feel that quite unpleasant stretch across the front of the shoulders and across those biceps? 4, 3, 2, we push back and hold and rest. And if it makes you want to slouch, that's a really great sign. We're working muscles that then stop us slouching. Now from here, I'd like us to come and lie on our left-hand side. So we lie on our left, we're going to extend our left arm along the ground, and you can use your shoulder as a bit of a pillow. And we're going to have our legs in a tabletop position, so hips and knees are at 90 degrees. And then take a moment to get a bit of lift under this left side of the waist. So try not to kind of just melt into the floor. Try and get that spine neutral. Now have a look at your knees. Do they look kind of stacked, not one in front of the other? And then from here, what I'd like you to do is lift your right leg, your top leg, up towards hip height, and then hold it here for a moment. Now in this position, I want your shin parallel to the floor. We will all tend towards either turning in or turning out. It's unlikely that we're all going to have perfectly parallel legs. So just kind of make a mental note at which way you're stronger in, which way were you trying to come up, but then try and level off that shin, yeah? Now in this position, the pelvis should still be pointing forwards, so try not to roll back with that leg. And we've still got that feeling of slight lift under the left side of the waist. Now on your inhale, you're going to lower that leg slowly down, and as you exhale, we lift the leg back up. Inhale, we lower the leg down. Exhale, we lift that leg back up. And we're going to keep this movement going. So as we're moving this leg, we've got horizontal abduction here. We're not trying to rotate the leg in a clam or reverse clam. We're trying to keep the shin really quite parallel to the ground. And that can be great for body awareness because it can be really tricky to manage, especially if you haven't got a mirror to hand. And you might find your ankle gets tired, and that's you strengthening your ankle joint. We don't want the foot to flop down. We want there to be a really neutral ankle here. Now we're going to do 4 more of these, and we should be starting to feel something in this glute med here, side of your bum. Let's do 2 more. And on the last one, we're going to lift it, we're going to hold it. Now, from here, I'd like you to straighten out that leg, bring it underneath you and pull it back slightly. So we've got a bit of hip extension. We've got that right glute pulling that leg back. Now, don't go so far that you start back bending. Still try and stay quite neutral. Then inhale, bring that leg back to tabletop. Again, exhale, we're going to extend that leg, keeping it at hip height. Inhale, we're going to flex it back to tabletop. And everything else kind of stays still, okay? So just again, try not to let the pelvis tuck under and then shove out. Keep the pelvis quite fixed. and move the leg in the hip socket. And we are strengthening that leg in that hip socket. So we're making sure that all the muscles that surround that leg within the hip are strong and functional. 3 more. Do we still have that lift under the waist? 2 more. Lovely. Now on the last one, I'd like you to bring that leg back to tabletop. Hold it there for a moment. Is the ankle neutral? Is the shin parallel? Is your bum on fire like mine? 3, 2, 1, and rest. And it should kind of feel like you want to punch or rub that bum or wiggle that leg. It should feel quite unpleasant again. So from here, I'd like us to tweak the arms. I'd like you to take your left arm, wrap it round you like you're giving yourself a hug. Put your right hand on the floor in front of your chest, okay? And then engage your core slightly. Now as you exhale, you're going to use this right hand to push the floor away into this single arm push-up. Inhale, see if you can control the release back down. Again, exhale, we push the floor away. And on the inhale, we slowly start to come back down to the ground. So we're keeping our spine relatively neutral here. I don't want it to be some sort of kind of side bend. It's almost like a bit of a side plank. This right arm is doing a huge amount of work because it's all on its own here. And I almost want the coming down to be more important than the pushing up. So yes, we're pressing the ground away, but can we control this slow release back down? 2 more. If you're right-handed, imagine how hard the other arm is going to be. You've got that to look forward to. 1 more. Let's make this the slowest one we've ever done in our lives. And when we get to the bottom, we're going to want to give that right arm a quick wiggle, quick shake out. And then I'd like us to roll over onto our backs. Now in the first trimester, most of us won't have a huge bump. Mine's pretty big. So we'll probably still find that we're comfortable enough to do things like crunches, but if you're not, feel free to just bypass this and fast forward. So we're going to take a moment to have our knees bent, our pelvis neutral, fingers to temples, elbows wide. Now on your inhale, give yourself a little double chin, and then as you exhale, start to lift the head and shoulders up off the mat into flexion. Now at the top here, what we're aiming for is the pelvis to still be quite neutral and the tummy to look relatively flat. So we're looking for this kind of corset to help flatten the abdominals. We're going to inhale to stay here, and as we exhale, we slowly come back down. Again, inhale, give yourself a little head nod. Exhale, start to slide the rib cage down towards the pelvis. We're going to inhale to stay here, and then we're going to exhale to come back down. So we're going to keep this going. Now what we're thinking about is the rib cage sliding down because we want to shorten the abdominals. And remember, we're thinking about the abdominals that span the distance between the bottom of the rib cage and the pelvis. So when those muscles shorten, they bring those 2 points closer together. The reason I'm mentioning the tummy being flat is that corset muscle again, helping to just draw the tummy flat. And we're going to do 2 more of these. If your neck is aching, don't feel bad about putting your hands behind your head for a little bit of support. At the end of the day, it's not cheating. It allows your neck to relax and your abdominals to continue. And on the last one, we're going to come up. We're going to hold that last one there. And the little pulses, up a bit, down a bit, up a bit, down a bit, keeping that tummy relatively flat. 4, 3, 2, last one, we're going to hold. We come down. And then we rest, and you might just want to kind of move your head from side to side to give your neck a break. Now bend your knees in towards your chest, put your hands behind your knees, and then roll up onto your bums. And then we're going to come over and we're going to do all of that work on the right hand side. So when you're ready, we're going to lie down on our right hand side, extending that right arm along the floor. The legs are in a tabletop position. Yeah, now you've remembered which one it is, huh? So legs are at 90-90. We've got a bit of lift underneath the waist. And we're looking at the knees and they look perfectly lined up. Now from here, we're going to slowly start to lift this left leg up towards about hip height, and then we're going to stay. And again, you might notice that you naturally either going to turn out or going to turn in. And it highlights where we're strong and where we might be slightly more weak. Now take a moment just to get that shin as parallel to the ground as you can, including the ankle, so try not to let the foot flop. Hips are both pointing forwards. Now inhale to lower that leg now it's warmed up. Exhale as you lift. Inhale as you lower and exhale as you lift. So it's almost like you're opening up a book or opening up a door. There is no rotating the leg in the hip socket. It's just a lift and a lower. And the pelvis stays fixed. It stays pointing forwards as that leg moves. And I mentioned it earlier on, but as we get more pregnant, our uterus grows, our bump gets heavier. And because of where it's positioned, it can pull the pelvis forwards, yeah? But if the muscles that surround the top of the leg and the hip socket are strong and functional, then the pelvis is in a much stronger position to maintain its position and not be pulled forwards by that growing bump. So we really want to make sure that these hips work and that they stay nice and strong during pregnancy, labour and also postnatally. Now we should be starting to feel something in the side of that left hip. It's always quite unpleasant and we might feel stuff further down around the ankle. We're going to do 2 more. On the last one, we lift and we hold, and we know what's coming up this time, okay? So pelvis stays still, we straighten the leg, we draw it back a little bit so we get some hip extension without, shoving the bum out. Then inhale, slowly bring that leg back to tabletop, do it again. Exhale, we extend and pull the leg back. Inhale, we slowly bring the leg back to tabletop. So we're still trying to keep the leg lifted. That's going to really build endurance here. We're trying to get that glute max at the back to pull the leg back into some extension. And there's a little bit of core work going on to stop the pelvis being pulled back by that leg. So we've got some stabilizing work going on here. Overall though, we'll just feel like that hip's about to fall off. We're going to do 2 more of these. Lovely. On the last one, we're going to bring that leg back to tabletop. We're going to hold that last one there and stay. Do we still have that lift? Lovely. Have we still got a parallel leg? 3, 2, 1, and rest. And you're going to want to rub or punch that bum and just give it a bit of a wiggle. Lovely. Now from here, rearrange your arms. So your right arm is going to come around you like you're giving yourself a hug. Your left hand goes onto the floor in front of your chest. A little bit of activation through the core, and as you exhale, we're going to push the floor away, straightening that arm out. Inhale, control the release, slowly back down. So we exhale, push the floor away. Inhale, slow and steady, on the way back down. So right-handed people, this side might feel a lot harder. It makes you realize kind of how dominant you might be in your dominant arm. And under this right hand, you might even feel some work going on in your lats and your serratus muscle, which is your pushing kind of boxer's muscle. So you might even get to feel that working. And I always think that's quite nice. You get that feedback. So hard to talk and do. We've got 2 left. Exhale to push. We've got 1 more. Remember that last one, I want it to be as slow as you possibly can on the way down. Take your time. 3, 2, 1. Give the arm a wiggle, give it a shake out, and then push yourself back to 4-point kneeling for me. So coming back to those hands and knees for a moment. Now take a moment to find neutral. We're going to tuck our toes under, and then a little bit of activation through the core. Now keep your knees bent, and then lift your bums up into the air. Again, the knees stay bent, so this is a modified down dog. Relax your neck. You might want to give your head a bit of a shake. And then this might feel silly, but I want you to open your mouth as wide as it'll go. Stick out your tongue and make the sound HA. So it's big deep breath in, and as you exhale, keep going. So you're opening your mouth really wide, unlocking that jaw, basically opening that jaw wide, sticking out your tongue and making that HA sound. And that's really helpful for those of you who find you've got a tight jaw, particularly when you're stressed. Now, when you're ready, start to walk your hands towards your feet until your feet are flat on the ground. Let your hands leave the ground until your legs are straight but not locked. And here we are at the bottom of that roll down again. Take another big deep breath in here, and as you exhale, you're going to slowly start to restack your spine back up, 1 vertebra at a time, until you find that you're back at the top, standing in that relatively neutral start position that we tried to find at the beginning. Take a nice big deep breath here, and on the exhale, just let any last bits of tension go. And then when you're ready, you can relax. And you can have a wiggle, you can have a shake out. But that is you done. So if you think about it, we've done some core work, thinking about that pelvic floor and that transverse. We've done some work through the shoulders and on our posture, and we've done a lot of work for the hip. So I hope that you felt that. I hope you enjoyed the workout today. You did so well. I definitely felt it during some of those moves, and I hope you felt you got a good workout as well. I'd absolutely love to hear what you thought of it in the comments below. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And finally, to support me, please share this video with any mums-to-be you know, or any communities that you're a part of. I've also left details below all about the Bump Plan, my holistic prenatal online fitness plan that's designed so you can join at any stage of your pregnancy. What makes the Bump Plan truly unique is that in all your workouts, I'm at exactly the same stage of my pregnancy as you are in yours. If you enjoyed this Trimester 1 workout and would like to explore how the Bump Plan can support you in your pregnancy, then I have an exclusive discount for you to use. To redeem £5 off a month of the cost of your Bump Plan subscription, simply enter the discount code MYBUMP at checkout. I've put the link below for you to sign up today. Thanks again for joining me today. If you haven't seen it yet, I'm going to link to the whole playlist of prenatal workouts so you can save it and go back to any of the workouts whenever you'd like. I look forward to seeing you again on the mat.